Alrighty, class of Miss Gallon's 2K17, it's your boy Ian.
And Carter.
And we're about to talk to you about the duo Pablo Escobar.
And John Lennon.
And why Pablo Escobar belongs in the Hall of
Shame.
And why John Lennon belongs in the Hall of
Fame.
Alright, let's get to it. Carter, kick it off with John Lennon.
Alright, John Lennon was easily one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century, if not of all time. He led an era of explicit politicization of music, making him a very controversial artist. His career, not only in the Beatles, but with his wife Yoko Ono and himself, led him to be a very powerful figure in the anti-war effort, and his music remains today. Here are 5 reasons why John Lennon belongs in the U.S. Hall of Fame. First off, John Lennon fought a 4-year battle with President Nixon, who attempted to deport him allegedly over his affiliation with drug possession a couple years earlier, but Lennon believed that the president's attempts were due to his affiliation with the anti-war effort in America. Nixon tried to stifle Lennon's criticism of his administration by attempting to deport him back to England on multiple occasions, until he was granted permanent visa to live in the U.S. Lennon's opposition to Nixon stood parallel to his anti-war, anti-government ideologies, which were both very influential in the protest and denunciation of the war in Vietnam. Secondly, John Lennon was a leader in the campaign against the war in Vietnam, with songs such as Imagine vouching for total anti-war ideologies. Lennon gained ground as a peace advocate against the damaging and harmful Vietnam War and remained entirely nonviolent while doing it. Thirdly, Lennon changed the face of music forever, politicizing and personalizing his music. The 60s saw a great popularization of political commentaries in music, which reflected the culture at the time. In the Vietnam War, the subject of great controversy at the time, was also a focus of many of Lennon's works. Lennon used his fame to promote larger causes such as peace, and not only to enrich himself or gain more fame. Lennon was genuine in his anti-war ideas. He didn't plan or attempt to become famous, but quickly gained influence anyway, leading to his ideas being truthful and genuine. This genuineness is reflected in his music and actions, which help characterize his legacy. Lastly, Lennon, alongside Paul McCartney, started the Beatles, a hugely popular band that was instrumental in the change of music Lennon contributed to. The Beatles are easily the most widely known of Lennon's work, and Lennon is the most popular of the Beatles. Paul and Lennon started the band at a young age and eventually moved to America and gained great influence. Overall, Lennon had great responsibility when it came to the future of peace movements and music as a whole, and while he had multiple bad traits, he would eventually move past these and should be remembered as a history-changing man he truly was all the way up until his death.
Now on over to the Hall of Shame side, Pablo Escobar. He was a Colombian cocaine dealer and a cartel leader during the 1970s and 80s. His cartel and him alike terrorized and altered America's history because of their actions. Here we are going to explore 5 reasons why he belongs in the United States Hall of Shame. The first reason that he belongs in the Hall of Shame is that in his early parts of his life, Pablo himself would fly the drugs into America. He would do this between drug smuggling routes in the United States, between Colombia and Panama. This shows how hard he was trying to supply the United States with dangerous and illicit drugs. Number 2, when Pablo Escobar reached the height of his criminal empire, he supplied 80% of America's cocaine during the 1980s, and this caused a greater fight on the war on drugs, leading to a waste of money and time on the U.S.'s part. This waste of energy and resources hurt the U.S. financially, causing him to be a burden on U.S. history. Numero 3. At the end of his career, strict regulations of the land led to cocaine being harder and harder to come by. These left addicted from Pablo Escobar's cartel, roughly 5.8 million in 1985, turned to crack, a highly addictive and damaging drug to individuals. This left inner-city communities in crumbles. This caused fragile parts of our society to become worse off and destroyed people's lives. Number 4. While his drugs destroyed people's lives, he also destroyed the lives of people with weapons. He had a hit list of U.S. businessmen and journalists he extorted, killed, and bribed many of these Americans and American locals. His cartel is directly responsible for the death of at least 3,500 people. Whenever the authorities got in his way, he always dealt with them the same way. He called it plata o plomo, which can literally be translated into money or lead. This is a quote from his former business partner, George Jung. This shows how ruthless this man was. Number 5, because of Escobar's reign in the United States and the amount of fear him and his cartel spread, the public associated that fear to the Latin American community during a time where the Latino population was fighting for equal rights. This made the group look unnecessarily bad and added to a whole lot of hate to the community. For these 5 reasons above, Pablo Escobar is a red stain on the white linens of the United States and should be remembered as such by being in the Hall of Shame.